Chris Fowler, he'll be on the call. It's the Cotton Bowl coming up tonight, Texas, Ohio State. Herbie will be there, Holly Rowe, Laura Rutledge. Festivities on the mothership starting at 7:30 Eastern. He'll also be on the call for the national title game. Here's your question, Chris. Oh, by the way, it's a good thing they're not playing the game outdoors. How's it look outside there in Dallas?
Wintry. We had like a nice wintry mix. It was snow, then it became hail, sleet, rain yesterday. It's wild. I mean, yeah, it's frigid. Also, like very cold and windy. The AT&T is right behind me here, out that window. It's hard to see, but it's got snow on the top of it, and it's nice and warm even in cold weather. Some stadiums are cold when it's cold outside because they don't have heat in them, and this one is nice and toasty. So good setting. All
right, here's the question I'll start the conversation with. Would you rather be James Franklin this morning or Brian Kelly?
Oh, man, I got to pick?
Yeah.
I mean, I think James Franklin's team, it was a good run. I mean, it's a heartbreaking way to lose the game. Some of those plays that decide it will haunt probably him and his team for a while. But I think there's a lot to be proud of what Penn State did and battle at the end. And I don't think that they have anything to really be embarrassed about it at Penn State. If you're James Franklin, certainly, I think you've answered some questions. Some remain, but I think it was a really good year for Penn State.
But when we talk about James Franklin, it's about his record against top 10 teams. I mean, that's really what his resume seems to be about. Is that fair?
Is it?
Oh.
Well, it's whatever the media decides it's about. I mean, that's part of it. When you're a program at Penn State, you are expected to compete with and beat the best your share of the time. Most of those losses are to Ohio State, and I was wondering if that was going to be the narrative. Penn State won last night. Ohio State wins tonight. Another rematch in an all Big Ten game and a series that obviously Ohio State's dominating. And I called the last time Penn State beat them was a blocked field goal run back by Grant Haley on a whiteout night. It's been since then.
Wow.
So we're not going to get that narrative. And I think that's okay because I don't know how much national belief there would be that Penn State could get over the hump against the Red Hot Buckeyes team if that's what it happened. So we don't have that narrative. But again, yeah, he's going to have to get better. They're going to have to beat Ohio State once in a while, but I don't think that's sorely lacking. I got to be honest with you. I just don't. You want to look at Ohio State against SEC teams who are ranked in the top 5. I spin this back because Buckeye fans know that James Franklin stat. I say, okay, well, if that's relevant, is it relevant that Ohio State's 1-7-1 all time against SEC top 5 teams, which Texas is? No, I don't think so at all. So you can spin stats any way you want. I mean, would he have loved the game, won the game? Yes. Could they have? Should they have? Maybe. But I don't think that's on James Franklin for sure.
Do you ever have announcer envy when you're watching a game?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course I do. Yeah, all the time, man. I mean, I would not have minded calling the Orange Bowl. I live in Miami, for one thing. It is not wintry in Miami. I really had high expectations for that game last night. That unfolded. I don't know who's going to win, but I was at Notre Dame practice this week. I saw the Irish. I forecast the kind of game we got. It was going to be 3 points either way. It was going to come down to the last possession. I don't mind calling games to come down to the last possession. I would love for this game tonight not to be a first-round knockout. But listen, Dan, I mean, like, who am I to whine about anything? This is our 23rd playoff game that Kirk and I have had the privilege to call tonight. That's a big number going back to the first one in 2014. So I don't let my envy get in the way of having a good time calling whatever I'm calling. But, yeah, that's a hell of a game to call last night.
But when you're calling a game like this, I know they're supposed to be like it's just another game, but it's not just another game. But then you have to stay in your comfort zone. Do you ever have that kind of conflicting, am I adding too much or not enough? Am I excited? Am I favoring somebody or not realizing it? Like, do you process any of that while you're getting ready or while you're doing it?
Yeah, you do. I don't think I have to worry about favoring somebody because if you honestly don't care about the outcome and separate yourself from that, then you don't have to worry about it. It's all in the ear of the beholder anyway. The fans listening are going to think, oh, he loves the other team. It's obvious. Let's listen to the call. And the other side says the same thing. I mean, you get excited when good things happen on the field. And I don't even think about who's in the uniform that's doing it. I think that, you do a lot of these games. You want to strike a balance between certainly not being jaded because you've done a lot of big games. And I don't think we ever come across as being jaded or, hey, been there, done that. It's going to take a lot to impress us. But you also don't want to come out of your shoes in the first quarter. You have to, you have to save something for the finish because you can't start the game out at 11 and then there's nowhere to go. So yeah, I think you learn over time that, a measured approach is good. But, when Ohio State's scoring touchdowns in the first 2 plays of the game and Jeremiah Smith is doing something special, okay, you're going to get really excited about that. And you're going to get excited when the other team starts to come back and make it a game. We want close games. I have the same agenda. Who do you like? I like a close game. I like a competitive game that viewers like. The people who are not just hardcore fans of the winning team enjoy, because Ohio State fans enjoyed the hell out of those first 2 playoff games that we did. If you want a competitive game like last night, not so much. So I want this to be a battle worthy of the occasion, which last night's semifinal was.
Chris Fowler will be on the call with Herbie tonight, the Goodyear Cotton Bowl. That'll be on ESPN. They start at 7:30 Eastern. Feels like we're underestimating Texas a little bit. And I don't know if it's a home field advantage. Ohio State travels well. I don't know what kind of sense you'll get of this is a home-ish game for Texas.
Ryan Day's always really concerned about the crowd. We were obviously at Tennessee came in and brought a lot of fans to Ohio Stadium. That fired up the Buckeyes. It felt like the Roman Coliseum or something, and the visitors brought a lot of people. And Ohio State responded in that way. At the Rose Bowl, he's going, what do you think? Is it 60-40? I don't know what the crowd is. There's a lot of green. There's a lot of scarlet. I mean, tonight there's going to be a lot of burnt orange in there. I don't think it's going to decide the game. But I do think, there's an advantage to playing Texas in Texas. If you're the Longhorns, they haven't had great success in this building, to be honest with you. They haven't played a Cotton Bowl game in 20 years. They played a Big 12 championship game in here, but Ohio State historically has actually done better in this building than Texas has. Doesn't mean a lot when they're on the same field, but Texas, you said underestimated. It's interesting because I think we've been overestimating the potential of this team, waiting for the pieces to come together, waiting for Texas to play a complete 60-minute game in all 3 phases, which they have not really come close to doing, if we're being honest. They played great football for like 30 minutes. They have a terrible record after halftime in these games. Sarkisian, he just has to address it. So they have to weather the start against Ohio State, as everybody does. They're a good starting team. Texas starts well. Their defense is the best in the country in the first quarter at limiting plays and limiting points. So Ohio State will have to try to change that. But Texas, Dan, they haven't scored a third quarter touchdown in like 6 games. They haven't outscored an opponent in the second half since they beat Oklahoma in the Red River game here in Dallas. That's a long time. That's a shocking stat for a really good team that's won 13 games.
I go back to, the fact that we extended the playoffs to 12 teams. When Ryan Day lost to Michigan, I wonder if there was a 4-team playoff, would Ryan Day have kept his job?
Yeah, I think he would have, but I think it would have been a really long, miserable offseason in Columbus without the chance to redeem yourself. But we do have a 12-team playoff, so I think you have to filter it in. I know Ohio State fans, I've done some shows, and they'll still never forget that game. And some people would still rather beat Michigan than win a championship, which is lunacy to me. It makes no sense. You have to change your thinking in this 12-team bracket era. And the fact was the opportunity was there for them. And they're halfway there. They got a long way to go because if they don't win tonight, then people will remember the Michigan loss because they didn't win a Big Ten, they didn't beat Michigan, and they didn't win a national championship. So their 3 goals are 0 for 3. There's a lot on the line for Ohio State, and they responded really well to that urgency so far. So we'll see if they can keep doing it.
Handicap the format for the playoffs. Let's say next year you have total autonomy. What tweaks, changes do you make?
I think there's tweaks that need to be made to the regular season leading into the playoff. I think eventually the conference championship games don't really have a place in this, especially in conferences like the Big Ten and the SEC. Both teams are going to make it every year. It's an extra layer of games. If you really care about workload and wear and tear, then you have to look at that. I mean, these teams have been preparing for this 16, 17 game season from the start. And the smart programs were doing that. The ones that had the resources and the roster to do that. Texas did it. Ohio State did it very intentionally, cranking back the tempo not playing at hyper speed, playing 150 less plays in the regular season to save their players for this. It's worked really well.
Yeah.
But going forward, I think if you took the conference championship games out of it, that would help a little bit. I think that you need to do away with the buys for the 4 highest ranked conference winners. I think that's a pretty popular opinion. You see Arizona State, Boise State, they didn't play badly. I just don't think that you deserve a top 4 seed by winning a conference. I think you should get in the bracket. I'm all for inclusivity. Maybe even give an extra, maybe make the American Conference get an automatic bid, but don't seed them based on that. Go 1 through 12, play it out. Like they do in college basketball. You don't get an automatic seeding for winning a conference.
Yeah. I'm going to script this for you. Texas is down by 4 late, and Arch Manning comes in. Comes off the bench.
Okay.
You cut away to the Manning family.
It's hard. They're hard to find. They hide really well. Cooper's hard to find in there. We'll find him though.
Well, we don't care about Cooper. We care about Arch and Peyton and Eli. And then whatever happens from there, they have the ball, they're down 4, and here comes Arch Manning. Savior.
Yeah, you have one of those stories that you write a movie. That sounds like a movie script, what you just laid out, right? It'd be more movie-like if he wins the game and the legend is born. There's a reason why Ewers is playing the game now. And I think, if that happens, if Quinn Ewers got hurt, that would be tough. He is an Ohio State recruit. We know that. He spent a year there. He's the original NIL quarterback in the court. He really is. He was like the Kurt Flood, of free agency, right? In college football. Yeah. That's an old reference.
Wow.
Not many people get that reference. But he ushered in the NIL era and cashed in really well at 2 places. Good for him.
Yeah.
So obviously facing his former school, and that's a big plot line coming in. If he gets knocked out of the game and Arch has to go in there, I don't like to see players fail. It's tough to watch interceptions decide games like it did last night for Drewell. That's tough. It'll haunt him. I don't like to see kickers choke. I don't like to see quarterbacks make mistakes that decide games. So in your storybook script, Manning goes down and Texas wins the game.
Yeah. Now you take it from there, okay?
Well,
great to hear from you.
What would you hear from me?
No, I said great to hear from you.
Okay.
Yeah, I figured that, you're busy. You probably got to work out today. Herbie going to spot you on the bench?
He doesn't get in the gym much, but I don't lift so much I need a spotter. I'll be all right. Tebow's around to spot me, dude. Tebow's working out in the gym like 4 times a day. I see him.
Really?
He's a hell of a spotter.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You're not putting up the same weight.
No, we are not in the same weight class. Speaking of busy, you either love Christmas, you're really busy, or you're just too lazy to take the tree down. I know. How long is a tree going to stay there?
All the above, by the way. That I love Christmas. I don't. The guy who takes down the tree, his girlfriend just had a baby, so that he normally takes down the tree. So I'm going to blame
it on
him.
the staff.
Yeah,
a good excuse.
Yeah. All else fails, I blame it on my staff. Have fun tonight. Thanks for joining us as always, Chris.
We'll do that. Appreciate it.
All right, that's Chris Fowler. He'll be with Herbie tonight, 7:30 in the Cotton Bowl. Holly Rowe and Laurel Rutledge will be there. Chris will also be on the call for the national title game.